Hey everybody, welcome to the Lisa Reviews movies that she hasn't actually seen. Today I'm kind of bending the rules a little bit, but I figured it'd be okay because, look, I did watch some scenes of the next movie, but I only watched the shark attacks, spoiler alert, because the rest of the movie kind of sucked, and I'll get into it. So I didn't think it counted because I saw like 10 minutes in total. So it starts off with like these Australians in a boat or whatever. There's like 5 of them. One guy doesn't have a girlfriend, and then there's 2 guys and 2 girls, and they're dating each other or whatever. So one dude has goggles. I remember that much, and his girlfriend's the like better looking one. The other one was a real thug. Oh my god! At one point in the movie, she's like in the water and like she's just like swimming around. She's got a mustache. Like it makes her look like a fucking like pro wrestler from the 90s with like the long greasy blonde hair with like ugh. Anyway, so they're like in a boat, and for some reason the boat capsizes, probably because they're stupid. I don't know, we skipped that part. And like they're on top of the boat because they're like, oh man, this sucks. And like dude with the goggles is like, I'm gonna go underwater because I have goggles. So he like puts on these stupid like big ass goggles with like the nose piece thing on it, and it, like dives into underneath the boat and starts like stealing supplies and shit. And then all of a sudden, like everybody on top of the boat's like, oh my god, oh my god! They just start banging on the top of the boat, and the dude's like, oh man, something really bad must be going on. So he dicks around for like another 30 seconds, like getting supplies. Oh, like this dude can hold his breath for like 20 minutes. It's pretty impressive. I think it's fake. Anyway, so he comes back up. He's like, yo, dudes, what's going on? I just have my stuff here. And like they're like, oh, we saw something break the water over there. He's like, oh man, that sounds bad. And then he goes back under the boat instead of getting back on top of it. And let's see. So they see like the thing break underwater, but he goes back under, gets some more shit, and comes back up. And they decide we're gonna die if we're on this boat. So, and the one dude, the guy that doesn't have a girlfriend, can't swim, so he just like stays on the boat. And then the other ones are like, okay, let's go. And they have like 3 flippers between them and like 2 little paddle things. So they're like swimming around, and like all of a sudden, dude's like, he's like, I'm gonna take my goggles and look underwater. So he does, and he like is looking around, and nothing happens for like 20 minutes. I swear to God, he's just underwater, like, derp derp, I'm looking at fish. And then later on, he sees a shark, and he's like, ah! And instead of like doing what you're supposed to do during a shark attack, they start like splashing and like screaming, and like the one dude is he has this chick loses her floaty because she's like scared by the shark or whatever, and like he's like, I'll go get it, and he swims off by himself and grabs it and gets eaten by the fucking shark, and like he loses his leg at first, and they see that he's like in blood, and there's a shark in the water, and they all swim over to him like splashing as much as possible, getting like his blood all over them, and they're like, are you okay? And he's like, they got my leg, you need to leave me. They're like, we can't leave you. And he's like, but they have my leg. And then like the shark comes up and like bites him and like pulls him under, so they're like, oh, well, he's dead. And then the 3 of them are like in the water, and the shark like kind of leaves a little bit for a second, and the dude with the goggles like looks over, and he's like, there's the paddleboard thing, and he goes, he grabs it, and there's like a big chunk out of it, and he still swims over and gives it to the girlfriend, which is terrible because, you know, it's bitten in half like her boyfriend was. So anyway, they're there at night, and they're bitching and about dying and shit, and then the next day, stupid girl gets eaten. I don't remember why, but so it's down to Goggles dude and his like hotter girlfriend, the one that doesn't have the mustache, and they're like, oh man, let's go swimming, and they're swimming, and they get onto a sand dune, and they're just like chilling, and the guy looks, and like about a mile in the distance there's an island, and he's like, oh man, I'll go swim to that island. And they're like, but they're on a sand dune. Like, if the island is visible, a rescue boat would be able to see them where they're at. Like, eventually, it'll, like, be in view. It's an ocean. It's not, like, got hills and shit. Anyway, so they're sitting on the sandbar, and they're like, let's swim! So they do. And there's a shark, and ooh, it almost gets them. But just in the nick of time, after he spends 10 minutes underwater with his goggles, they get onto, like, a reef thing. And then, stupid bitch cuts her foot on it. And the dude's like, I can fix it. And he takes like this saltwater soaked rag and like just tapes up this massive wound on her foot. She's like, that's better. And like, I'm like, no, it's not, because you're still bleeding profusely into a wet rag. Anyway, so, bleeding profusely into a wet rag, they start swimming again, because clearly the shark's gone forever. No, naturally, because they're splashing around like idiots. By the way, his girlfriend that can't swim as good as he can, he gives the shitty shuffleboard with a big bite mark out of it, and he takes the good one for himself. Bag. Anyway, so they're swimming, and naturally the shark comes back, and it's like, oh no! And like, she starts climbing on the rock, and it's slippery, and she's like, I can't get up! So he like, gets like 2 handfuls of her ass, and just like pushes her up, and she's like, woo! And she gets on the rock, and he's like, help me up! And she's like, okay! And she like reaches down, and the shark naturally bites him at that moment, and yanks him underwater, and he's dead forever. She got rescued the next day, and the dude on the boat just disappeared. They haven't been able to find him or the boat. My theory? Aliens. This has been the first edition of Lisa Reviews movies she's kind of seen, at least the shark attack.